Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeane Francine. We've given you a plethora of stories this morning, but we didn't forget about you sports fans. That's where our next story takes place. We know that our Fox Sports NFL Sunday preview is the Dallas Cowboys versus the Miami Dolphins. They are playing tomorrow. Joining us now to talk more about this matchup is sports broadcaster CJ Ecke. CJ, thank you so much for joining us again this Saturday.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So before we get into the Cowboys and the Dolphins, which takes place tomorrow, we must talk about what happened last week against the Bills. It was a matchup where both teams needed to win, but unfortunately the Cowboys did not. What is your reaction to that game, CJ?
My reaction is something that I learned a long time ago. Just when you think that you have an idea of what's going on, you realize just how little you actually know. The Dallas Cowboys go into last week in Buffalo, a team that's really firing on all cylinders, and they hit the wall. They hit the wall against a Buffalo team that hasn't played up to the standard that they usually have played up to, but when they do, it's one of the harder teams to stop in the league, and they were buoyed by James Cook's huge day on the ground, 25 carries, 179 yards. He had over 200 total yards and a touchdown to help lead Buffalo to a win over the Cowboys, who this year struggle on the road. I mean, they haven't lost a game at home this season, but all of their losses have come on the road to teams that should be in the playoff conversation. And it really does beg the question, can the Dallas Cowboys win those games that matter in the postseason? Well, we have yet to find out. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Cowboys do, how they bounce back after a disappointing loss in Buffalo last week.
Well, look, another thing we have learned is you must look to the next game. You can't focus on that last loss or last win. It doesn't matter because you got to focus on that next game. So tomorrow, the Cowboys will be playing in Miami against the Dolphins, another road game, unless that has changed. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what are you expecting to happen with this game?
I'm expecting a much more competitive game. I know it is in South Beach, so obviously the temperatures and the weather conditions probably going to be a little bit different than it was in Buffalo. But I'll go back to something that I saw not last week, but the week before. The week before, the Miami Dolphins were on Monday night against the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans found a way to pull off the victory. And Miami were facing some of the same questions that the Dallas Cowboys were facing. It was, is this team a pretender in the playoff picture? Are they a team that's going to fold when the lights get brightest in January? Those were the questions that they were facing. And credit Mike McDaniel, credit Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. They found a way to bounce back against the division rival of the Jets. So it looks like they've gotten it back on track. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens between them and the Cowboys. It's a matchup of two different styles of play. The Dolphins go up and down the field. They're an offensive-driven squad led by Tyreek Hill, one of the absolute best receivers in the league. And the Dallas Cowboys, when they're on, they are a nightmare to handle defensively, and they make the mark on forcing turnovers. So I'm interested to see how those two styles will contrast on Sunday.
I'm glad you raised that perspective. Definitely two different styles of teams. So, CJ, what will it take for the Cowboys to win, and what will it take for the Dolphins to win?
Well, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you really need to flush that offensive performance down the drain and get back to focusing on what you do. Dak Prescott only threw for 134 yards last week and an interception. It was just not a good offensive performance across the board. So they're going to have to get back to what they do. And Dak Prescott's going to have to lead them down the field. CeeDee Lamb's going to have more of an impact in the passing game. The defense is going to have to find a way to get stops and force turnovers. So that's something that they're going to have to watch and they're going to have to make happen. For the Miami Dolphins, it's really simple. They need to first get Tyreek Hill healthy. He missed the last game against the Jets due to an ankle injury that he suffered on Monday night against Tennessee. And they're going to have to continue to attack down the field. And that's what Mike McDaniel wants to do. Tyreek Hill is probably one of the fastest human beings that I have seen on a football field since Chris Johnson played for the Titans years ago. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do offensively. And on the defensive side for Miami, can they limit the explosive plays that the Cowboys are capable of producing. I know Jalen Ramsey, another mid-state kid from right here in Smyrna, is back on the field, and he's playing like the all-pro caliber cornerback that he is. They got some guys up front who can make things happen. So I'm interested to see if Miami defensively can limit the big plays that the Cowboys can produce.
Sports broadcaster CJ Ecke, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, we're getting to the playoffs, so a lot of teams in playoff positioning. A couple of teams have already been eliminated, so I'm anxious to see where each team is going to be positioned as we enter the home stretch of the regular season. And I would like to wish everybody, you and yours, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm hopeful that I will talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, CJ, for coming on, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you too. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay?
You too. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.